Hey guys, Scott Payne, PMP Exam Success Secrets with Scott. In this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give you an interview that I just had a little while ago with a successful student, someone who came at the PMP from kind of a different angle, but slayed it nonetheless, conquered that mountain and went up to the top and claimed her PMP. So this is an interview with Renae. You're going to learn a lot in this interview. I had a lot of fun in this interview. Renae has got a ton of stuff to teach you and everybody else out there. So jump into the interview. We're going to go through it, really enjoy it, try to take away as much as you can from Renae. And if you do, you're going to be as successful as she was. So the real question is this: how do hardworking project hustlers like us, who aren't afraid to put in the work, who invest in ourselves and our careers, how do we prepare for the PMP in a way that makes us battle ready for the onslaught of situational questions we know we'll face, so that we can walk into the exam with confidence and walk out with the project respect we deserve? Now, I've been in your shoes and I've done it. Join me as I guide you step by step to your PMP success using the most innovative study practices and the best tools on the market. My name is Scott Payne, and welcome to PMP Exam Success Secrets. Hey guys, it's Scott. PMP Exam Success Secrets with Scott. That's me. I'm Scott. And today we have a really, really cool interview with Renae. And she's got some cool stuff to share with us. She just took the exam yesterday and she did really, really good. So we're going to jump into it. We're going to interview her. She's going to have a lot to teach you and me. So it's going to be fun. So let's not wait any longer. Renae, thanks for showing up. How'd you do yesterday?
Thank you. I did really well. So it came out that I did above average on 3 of the 5 process groups. And I took almost the entire time. So I did 3 hours and 56 minutes for the exam. But I thought, why not just spend all the time? It would prevent me from having to come back and do it again, which would take a lot more time. So I really felt grounded going into it. And it has a lot to do with your materials, to be honest. I feel like you really helped make it the materials human and relatable to where I could digest it and know it, and then really solve these situational problems that they were asking for the 4-hour course. So,
well, that's awesome. I am really, really excited. I know that you are a Sandy Mitchell devotee as well. So Sandy and I both have a hand in this, and so we're both proud of you. Very, very proud.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. I'm a huge fan of Sandy Mitchell. I love her directness and kindness. And again, she just makes it like palatable. It's so much information. But it's a process to learn because it is just so much information, right? And I met Sandy during the boot camp, and so true to form, it was like drinking from a fire hydrant. Mm-hmm. But somehow it wasn't, because I think because she is so approachable, it was more palatable. I think it depends on how you relate to the material and then how you relate to other people, and that really does help with learning.
That's cool. Well, one of the things, a lot of people that are listening and out there kind of have a preconceived notion about the exam. Did you walk in with one when you started studying? And as you went through the process and took the exam, were there any big misconceptions that you originally had in your mind that kind of like wilted away as you started going through and did so well?
I wish I could say no. I mean, it wasn't. I actually think that hearing how difficult the exam was helpful, because it really helped me to focus on details and really know the material. It's not an exam that you can kind of piece together. You really have to have an intimate knowledge from multiple perspectives of the knowledge areas and process groups. And so I'm actually glad I was given a little bit of that healthy dose of like accuracy of, okay, this is going to be painful because it was. And, but I prepared for it. I planned for it, and I succeeded because of that.
Well, that's cool. So as you look back, I know we were talking a little bit about how to prepare for situational questions and other things. Like, what do you think was one of the big things that really helped you? Was it in the way in which you prepared, different materials you used, like videos, etc.? What was the biggest help for you for your learning style?
Yeah, well, for my learning style, I learned through stories. And so I think, as I mentioned, having the privilege of connecting with you and Sandy and talking out the materials was really helpful. Your animations that you have are really helpful of John.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting the PMBOK into practice, right? Because the PMBOK is, when you read it on its own, it seems like, how does this ever work in the real world, right? Like, it's just so much information. But when you actually get into it and you see, it's like, wow, this is incredible, an incredible set of tools that it can apply to painting a wall, to building a rocket, like, it's just really incredible. But unless I had the stories around it and the applications and the mnemonics, and like for the your chart for EVM was so helpful. I got it. Like, I just was able to zoom through it and I saw the patterns. And I think it's just making material that seems so foreign and so structured, human, and relatable. And so they can be the tools that they are. And I feel confident that's how I passed the exam.
That's awesome. And you only learned the EVM thing like 2 days ago, right?
Right. Yeah. 2 days. And then the day after, I didn't tell you this, I actually got sort of a migraine. So I was in bed all day the next day. So I had a day to learn it, but I didn't need it. I actually just needed to look at it a couple times. It was so clean. And in fact, that's what I would probably say about your course, is that it's very clean. You've helped structure it in a way that's so palatable and relatable. It's just so helpful.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. We really worked real hard to distill it down. Now let's talk a little bit about how you attacked the questions. I don't need to know the exact questions or anything, but everybody says it's situational questions. Is that what you faced? Were there a lot of situational questions?
Yeah, they were primarily situational questions. Yeah.
And how did you think through the situational questions? If someone's listening now and they said like, well, Renae, you did such a great job. Like, how do you cut situational questions down? Like, what could they do to follow your example?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, I just really saw myself in the scenario. I actually visualized myself trying to solve that problem in the room, in the context there. So if this was part of my job, how would I handle it at work, right? Because I'm faced with a lot of problems at work that I don't know. So being in that, putting myself empathetically in that situation was helpful. And then one of the things that you said in your training was know where you are, right? And so
say it again. I think it broke up.
Oh, sorry. You said know where you are.
Okay, know where you are. Yep.
Know where you are, and that was very helpful for me because because I knew the framework. I was able to place myself in that moment and go, okay, I know what we've just done. Okay, I'm here. Okay, got it. And this is what I do next. And so that was that mapping tool was very helpful, just orienting myself and then being able to make the next best choice was helpful.
That's awesome. And I know while you put in a ton of work, right? Like 200-300 hours.
Yeah, about 300. Yeah.
300 over a couple months, obviously, because you had to sleep a little bit. And so when you studied, how did you use the simulator to help build your scores? What was the process like with that?
I would just constantly read to refine, read the material that you had presented on each area, and then also just focus on the test. I really loved how you broke it down according to process, group, and knowledge area, so I could really be specific about where I was, whereas other materials, because I went through Andy Crow's book, which I also really liked. I read the PMBOK a couple times. I did Ricardo Vargas, and I also brought in Ed Designer, I think is his name. Edward Designer.
Edward Designer, he's great.
He's great too, yeah. And so I was looking at it, because that's one of the things that Sandy had said, is you want to know this material from a lot of different points of view so you can really just understand it. But I forgot the question actually.
I was just saying, I think you answered it well. I was asking about how you use the simulator and how you kind of approach studying. So just to reiterate for myself that you said that you had some foundational texts that you went through, mine and some other texts. And then you also, watched the videos, and then you continued to look at things from different perspectives and used what's out in the universe to help with that. So I think there's some great resources out there, mine included. And so I think that's really good that you used all those.
Yeah, but going back to your simulator, it really helped me refine, because it was targeted. So what I didn't complete, because I forgot, because I'm a little fatigued today, is that the other course material didn't offer that kind of refinement. were larger blocks. Yours were more of the actual building blocks that build out the framework in your brain. The puzzle, actually, I think probably the puzzle in your brain, because sometimes with the puzzle you might have a whole section here, then nothing here. So you've got to understand the flow in order to fill those other parts, and that's what your tools really help with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if you were to go back, I'm knowing what you know now, and you were to advise someone that started in your spot, what, I know that we talked about using a bunch of different subjects, but what would be the quickest, most efficient way that an individual, I understand that everybody's different, but just a general individual in your mind could prepare and succeed on the exam? What would be your advice?
I would actually say doing the boot camp and getting the conversation from the classmates and having an expert to talk to is helpful. And I actually feel honestly strongly that closing off with your class, what is it's called?
The e-course is like the PMP Success Master Class to get official on it.
Yeah, I found it to be very, very helpful actually. And you gave me that last minute, and it was a game changer for me because you are so conversational with the material. Again, it just helps make this material usable and practical, and like brings it into your world, right? And so I just, those two bookends really were vital, I think. And I could have probably removed out the 2,800 pages of material that I read in between. Right. But it's okay.
Yeah, that's all right. You know, you flip some pages. That's good. That's cool. So a lot of people have asked me like, hey, a lot of students come to me and say, I've already taken a boot camp. A lot of them haven't been able to go through Sandy. So they don't have that luxury, being like with a really, really great instructor. But if someone has been through a boot camp, what you just told me was it's still useful to go through the e-course. Would you agree with that?
100%. To be honest, the value that I got out of the boot camp was just the conversations and just becoming familiar, but it doesn't bring it home. It's too much information in a short amount of time.
Right.
So I didn't find that it really, it's like I got sprayed down rather than, Right. Whereas I was able to absorb it with your class. And because each video is in depth, but also really clean, and I could do it at my own pace. And then there's a test right after each section. So I could go, did I actually learn this, or did I think I learned it? Right.
That's a good point.
The timing was good.
That's awesome. That is really, really good. So I know that you're in design and you're managing a big team. How does going through the PMP help you in your job?
Oh my gosh, I find it so helpful. And one of them, actually, on its basic level, I like how it's helped me how to think. Oh. It's teaching me to know how to prioritize information, decipher what's most important, and then take the best choice of action. And that to me is invaluable. It also has shown me that it's given me a new framework to solve situational problems. It's given me a lot more agility to solve situational problems. And so it's not necessarily a traditional path for someone that's in the design world. Right. So in fact, that was one of my main conversations with Sandy was, am I overshooting this, trying to do this, Right. She's like, no, I think this is going to be a great fit. And it's, it is a unique combination, however. And honestly, the design world does lack a fair amount of structure. And so having this clean structure that also is so fluid, because creativity requires fluidity, it is a great match. It's also just really helping me to understand, to be more thoughtful with responsibility, ownership, authority, clarity, and communication. It's been invaluable. So I feel like it's a great use of my professional time to get certified.
Well, that's really cool. That's really cool. Well, I think this has been really, really good. I like to leave on a high note. And so you have dropped a ton of good information. It's really great. You come from a different perspective. You come from the design, from the artistic world, but you see the value in getting some structure, which still allows a lot of flexibility. Now, before we go off, we talked a little bit, some other people might not know about the John story. You mentioned the John story. Can you, for someone that hasn't been introduced to my material, can you tell them what the John story is all about to you?
Yeah, for me, it's just walking through a project with someone who is who understands the framework, but also is human and is at times is cutting corners. And you get the ability. The storytelling is brilliant because you get the option of seeing what if happening in your life, right? So what if he didn't do this? Oh, and we're all like, no, don't do that. You need to do this. And so it's like, it helps you to think and relate, because it's like, he's going to take the hit for that. I don't have to, but I can learn from that. But he always catches himself in whatever else. But I also found to be very stylish. I mean, I know it's like I don't need style when I'm studying, but it helps. And so I like the animation and the humor that you've infused through the videos too. Again, it just makes it so approachable.
Did I ever tell you how I wrote it?
No.
Okay. So when I was studying, now we're just like in the bonus section of the interview. Like we're just talking now. I know you got a couple minutes to go, so we'll just eat it up. So when I was studying, I was like really lost. Like I was trying to make sense just like everybody else. And I've shown you the PMBOK that I ripped up. But when I started to really understand it and kind of like rely on myself to ask those same questions that you did, to say like, hey, what would I do about this? Because honestly, not to get philosophical, but I find that too many people rely too much on the book, and in doing any book like the PMBOK or anything else, and they lose the fact that they have tons of experience in themselves. Because everybody says like, oh, just play by the PMBOK rules, which is true. But I think the thing that they miss is that they go, you are an expert. That's why you're on the precipice of getting this certification. So I was like, when I realized that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to infuse my own world into this, and let me try to relate it and see if I can make those connections. So as I started to do that and take those gambles in my mind, I started to see a real person doing these things and playing out the story. And if you see the little book that I wrote when I started to write it, it was all in the margins. John would do this and, whatever. And the cool thing was, I didn't know what John was going to do next. So it was like I was reading the book while I was writing the book. And I didn't know I was writing the book at the time. I really didn't know I was writing it. And so I would like write the beginning of like how he went through and got thrown in this project by a crazy boss. And then he, jumps into it and makes a bunch of mistakes, like you said. And then I was like, as I went back and studied more, and I was like, oh, what's the next thing I have to study in planning? And then I'd have to challenge myself to think through, to be like, what's John going to do next? Like, I don't know. Like, it was almost like I was opening a door that was already written, but it wasn't written yet. It's weird. And as an artist or something, I might be talking crazy, but it might be, I don't know.
I'm confident you are a creative. I have no doubt you are.
Yeah. And so so he's a real guy,
Yeah.
John is a real guy. John in my head, John is not only John is in my head is a real guy, but he's modeled on a real guy who's a much better project manager than John in my story. But I see that person, my friend John, my work guy, colleague, in my mind when I was writing it. So it was really fun, and I think it helped me, and I think it helped a lot of people. So that's cool. I just want to give you the backstory a little bit.
Definitely did. Definitely.
Well, that's cool. All right. Well, I really appreciate your time. I learned a lot. You did super well, and I was glad we were able to help you, and you did all the work. So thanks again. And we're going to follow up with you in a little while to see how you've implemented these things in your design world. And I'm sure you have some cool stuff to share with us then. So thanks again, Renae.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I know that when I was studying for the PMP, it was really, really hard to find one good source that would guide me from the beginning to the end and that would speak to me in a language that I understood. No mumbo jumbo, no jargon, just something that I could work with. That is why this podcast exists. Now, if we are making a difference in your life, if we're helping you, let's do something bigger, you and I. Let's share it. Let's find somebody else. Why don't you find somebody else that you could share this podcast with so we can extend our reach, you and I. We can help them, all right? And if you want to continue to learn, if you want to continue to go farther, come to pmmasterprep.com/free. We have awesome free resources that are going to take your study skills, boom, to the next level. So go check it out right now. Go to pmmasterprep.com/free. Get all the stuff that I'm dropping on you. New stuff all the time. So go check it out, and I'll see you there.